In this section of lessons, I'll provide you with an overview of the core Apple development tools. To become a productive iOS developer, you'll want to quickly become comfortable with these tools and understand their various features and capabilities. In this lesson, I'll provide you with an overview of Xcode. In this chapter's lessons, I'll be using this project called UI Catalog. This is a standard sample app from Apple, and I have included a copy of it in your working files for your convenience. Xcode is a fairly complex IDE. Its primary interface, called the Workspace window, is broken down into 5 main areas: the toolbar at the top, the navigator area on the left, the editor area in the middle, the debug area at the bottom, and then the utility area on the right. Each of these sections has a variety of subsections, which makes Xcode a pretty functionality-dense user interface to learn. Let's begin breaking this down by starting with the toolbar. In the top left of the toolbar, you'll see the run and stop buttons, and we've seen these in action already. What you may not have noticed about the run button is the little down arrow that sits next to it. You can click and hold on this to select some different run options. By default, the standard run configuration is defined. We can also specify test, profile, and analyze. I'll leave this set on run for right now. Next to that, you'll find the scheme selector, and this allows us to choose between schemes that we have defined within our project. A scheme is just a collection of configurations that define a particular project to be built. Next to that, we can specify which device or simulator we want to select to run with. Next to that is the breakpoints button, and from here we can globally toggle breakpoints on and off. Next to that is the activity viewer, and this will provide us feedback based on whatever is currently happening within Xcode. So as we're building projects or debugging projects, we'll see some additional feedback show up in this area. If we slide over to the right of the toolbar, we'll see 3 editor buttons. We'll skip these for now and come back when we talk about the editor area. Next to those buttons, you'll find the view buttons. In here, we can toggle on and off various components of our user interface. This can be nice if we're running on a smaller monitor or running on a laptop. Xcode requires a considerable amount of screen real estate, so we can toggle these features on and off as we need to. So if we're not working with a particular component of Xcode, we can turn those features on and off. And finally, you'll see this button called the organizer. And we'll talk about the organizer in an upcoming video. I'll switch over to the navigator area. The primary navigator we work with is called the project navigator. From here we can browse through the various assets within our project. So our source code, any image files we have. We can find our various user interface resources. So this is a convenient view to quickly get through components of your project. Next to that, you'll find the symbol navigator. And from here we can browse the various symbols within our project. So all of our classes or methods. It's another convenient way to quickly get through our project. Next to that, you'll find the search navigator. And from here we can do global searches across our project to find various resources. So I'll search for alerts. And this quickly search through my project. And I can find just the resource I'm looking for. We can also switch to a replace interface, so we can do search and replace across our whole project. This down arrow next to the magnifying glass icon lets you specify some additional options, so I can select find options. I can either do a standard textual search or a more advanced regular expression search. By default, we're going to be searching across our entire project workspace. We can also specify custom project scopes, and this will allow us to limit our search selection. Next to that, you'll find the issue navigator, and as various issues pop up within our project, such as build failures or build warnings, we'll see those show up here. For instance, if I highlight this code and just comment this out and attempt to build my project again, I'll see some build failures show up in this window. Next to that, you'll find the debug navigator. So if we're running a debug session, we'll see information show up in this view that can help us figure out what's going wrong with our application. Next to that is the breakpoints navigator. So as I set various breakpoints within my project, I'll see those show up here. This provides me a single interface where I can navigate all of my breakpoints. If I want to delete any of these breakpoints, I can highlight it and delete. Alternatively, I can simply drag and drop. I'll get this fun little poof animation. Finally, we have what's called the log navigator. This will show us a history of all of our build, run, and debug sessions that we've run. I'll switch back to the project navigator and then talk about the editor area. So the editor area is our main editing interface. The particular editing interface changes based on what we have selected in the navigator. So right now we're seeing a source code editor. As I highlight various project resources, you'll see the editor area change. So I can highlight various user interface files. There are standard text editors available. Now right now I'm operating in what's called the standard editor. As I highlight various user interface files, you'll see that primary files show up in this editor area. I can also switch to what's called the assistant editor, and that's available from these buttons up in the menu bar. And this will bring up the associated file that's associated with what we see in our primary editor. So in this case, I've got the view controller M selected in my main file. This will bring up its associated header file, or its .h file. This can be a convenient way to edit two related files at the same time. We also have what's called the versions editor. So if I had this project under source code control, I would see version history show up in here, and I can see differences between those versions. I'll switch back to the standard editor. You'll also notice across the top of the editor area is the section called the jump bar. From here we can navigate through our source code. We can navigate to different files within our project. We can go back and navigate through different sections of our project. And finally, if we highlight the root level, we can actually navigate through the entire project itself. This can be a convenient way to very quickly skip through various parts of your project. This section at the bottom is called the debug area. From here we'll have our project console, so any debug messages that we want to spit out to the console, you can find these here. This is our debug section. We'll talk more about debugging in a future video. But for now, I can simply drop a breakpoint in here and run the application. And when it hits that breakpoint, you'll see it stop at that location. And we can step through our source code, see various things that are happening with our application at that point in time. But we'll talk more about debugging in an upcoming episode. Finally, we'll look at the utility area on the right. And the utility area has two parts. There's this part on the top and the section down here at the bottom. In the top view, we'll have what's called the file inspector. And this will show us our file name that we have highlighted, its file type, its location on disk. We can define its target membership. So what you'll see will change as I highlight various resources in my project. Next to that, you'll find this quick help inspector. And with this open, we can highlight various symbols within our project and get help. With this selected, I can highlight various symbols within my project and pull up their related documentation. This can be a convenient way to quickly get to documentation for a particular symbol. Now in the utility area, depending on what you have selected, you may see some additional buttons up here at the top. When we talk about Interface Builder, we'll discuss that in more detail. And finally at the bottom, we have some different utility sections available to us. On this main tab, we have our file templates. And I can highlight these files and drag and drop them into the project navigator to create new files. I don't tend to use this view a lot myself. I think there are better ways to create files within the project. Next to that, you'll find the code snippets library. Code snippets are a way to quickly write commonly used code. So Apple defines a bunch of different code snippets in here. We can also define our own. Next to that, you'll find the object library, and we use this when we're working with Interface Builder to get our various user interface elements. And then finally, you'll find the media library. So any audio, video, or image files will show up in here and allows us quick access to those resources. As you can see, there's a lot of functionality provided by Xcode. Some of these features you'll use all the time, others seldom if ever. If you need additional help, you can find the Xcode user guide under the Help menu. This guide will provide you detailed information on a variety of Xcode topics. Additionally, several areas such as the navigator and editor areas provide you quick targeted help on specific tasks by right-clicking and selecting the appropriate help topic. You should now have a good understanding of how to navigate around the main Xcode interface. I encourage you to explore the interface and get more comfortable with the tool.